Lucio, this is the Global Digest think tank group. We are podcasting different Asia regional issue and global issue. I've been talking a lot about Burmese military coup and regional conflict. Why don't you introduce to our audience briefly what's your background?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Thank you, John, for the kind invitation. I am Lucio B. Pitle III. I am a research fellow with the Philippine-based think tank. The name is Asia Pacific Pathways to Progress Foundation. I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Philippine Association for Chinese Studies. I am presently based here in Taiwan as a fellow of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of China, Taiwan. And I am also a visiting scholar with the National Cheng Chi University Department of Diplomacy and the Center for Foreign Policy Studies. I'm happy to be here in your platform.
Yes, welcome, Lucio. So we are following, about South China Sea conflict and Taiwan Strait conflict. So how did you see recently tension in, South China Sea? And last time that Taiwanese issue also, they mentioned a lot of Chinese aircraft and, and ship are surrounding Taiwan. So can you exactly elaborate the situation around there?
Yes, so these are two flashpoints that are of growing interest and concern, the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. And of course, the Philippines, where I am from, we've been having this close encounters with Chinese vessels in the South China Sea. And so some of them are very risky, dangerous maneuvers, unprofessional, unsafe. And of course, they raise the specter of accidents that may endanger the lives and of our Coast Guard personnel for both the Philippine and the Chinese side, and also raises the danger of potential damage to ships, in the South China Sea, where I am presently in Taiwan. There's also, of course, the concern about the mainland China's increasing drills and exercises around the island of Taiwan. And much of it is also, in a way, motivated by geopolitical factors, one of which is the growing U.S.-China tensions, and Taiwan is one of the flashpoint areas. There's also the upcoming elections here in Taiwan by early next year. And of course, at the same time, that there had been visits made by Taiwan leaders to the U.S. And of course, in the past, there's been high-level visits of U.S. officials here in Taiwan. The most memorable of which was the visit of the former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, which of course affected cross-strait relations, and of course gave the mainland a pretext to conduct drills and exercises around the island of Taiwan and crossing the median line, which had served as like the informal boundary between both sides of the strait for a long time. And so this is the situation right now in both the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Beijing is, of course, the dominant actor, and of course, the activities of Beijing in these spaces, of course, raises concerns on the part of its neighbors and also other actors.
I see. So, I mean, recently also there was a tension in South China Sea between Filipino and Chinese Navy. So we know the artificial islands or, those disputes islands, it is closer to, Filipino territory. It's very far from Chinese mainland China. However, did you ever make, agreement or, consensus between Chinese government and Filipino government? Is there any clear line or there is not able to make any clear lines, a sea border,
Well, of course, both sides have been trying to handle the situation. Of course, it's increasingly more challenging. And of course, the diplomatic and dialogue efforts are there. But at the same time, of course, there was this arbitral ruling of 2016, which made it very clear, set the metes and bounds of the Philippine maritime zones. Notably, its exclusive economic zone on its western seaboard. And of course, that also invalidated the 9 dash line or the 10 dash line claims of China that that is based on historic rights. And they were already superseded by UNCLOS. And the 2016 award reaffirmed that. And the 2016 Tribunal Award also argued and ruled that none of the features in the Spratlys are islands, and therefore they cannot generate extended maritime entitlements like EEZ or continental shelf. And so that, in a way, narrowed the area for delimitation between Philippines and China and other disputants. So they would be confined to features uh, that are close by each other, and whose territorial sea would be around 12 nautical miles or less, separating two features. So there are about 50 features in the Spratlys. And so this would still take time to demarcate these maritime boundaries between these rocks or high tide features. But it's more possible now than when you have overlapping EEZs generated from these land features. So the 2016 ruling is the basis for now the new basis for Philippine action in the West Philippine Sea. We are trying to work with China to try to de-escalate the situation. We have put up a bilateral consultative mechanism to try to handle the situation, prevent crisis, prevent accidents from taking place. In the past, we have a hotline communications between the coast guards of both sides to try to, of course, minimize misunderstanding and miscalculation. Uh, Possibly there would be some effort to try to revive and better yet to institutionalize this kind of mechanism, and also to restore high-level military dialogue and contact between both sides. I think these are ways to try to avoid potential skirmish or misunderstanding in the South China Sea between the two neighbors.
You know, 2016 ruling mean ICJ ruling, right?
It's an arbitration tribunal under Annex 7 of UNCLOS. It's not ICJ.
I see. So international court ruled uh, in 2016, but China did not accept all of them, right?
Yeah, China did not accept the ruling. They did not participate in the process. In fact, while the process was underway, they changed facts on the ground in the South China Sea by building massive artificial islands between 2013 to 2016. So by the time the ruling came out, they already achieved fait accompli, or they already achieved uh, facts on the ground. They have changed facts on the ground to their favor, and which, of course, affected the Philippine maritime interests in that space.
I see. Uh, it means China is doing already too much, claiming island, artificial islands, right? So if China did not want to accept international court ruling, they have option to be bilateral, agreement between China and Philippines. Even bilateral agreement cannot uh, make it. I mean, legally, China is failed all kind of legal system, bilateral or international court ruling. Or how do you see regional agreement within ASEAN. Is there any discussion within ASEAN, formally ASEAN discussion about South China issue and boundary issue? Because a lot of ASEAN member, Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia also involved in this conflict, South China Sea conflict. Why not ASEAN formally make decision on, even without China within ASEAN has to make some kind of agreement? Can you explain more about ASEAN activity?
Yeah, so there's an ongoing ASEAN-China Code of Conduct process. So 11 countries, ASEAN, 10 members, and China trying to work out a code of conduct. It's a long drawn process, but both sides are trying to finalize the document in the next 3 years. So the goal is to have a document that would provide the outline of, well, do's and don'ts when assets are out at sea among the littoral states of the South China Sea. But of course, there are concerns about the nature of the document, whether it will be more effective, whether it would be binding, whether it would provide provisions to penalize offenders. And so I think there are some sticking points on the issue. From the Philippine side, recently, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is reaching out to neighbors, Malaysia and Vietnam, to try to reach some consensus first. I think the idea is for the claimant states of ASEAN to have some basic position first before broaching it to the rest of ASEAN, and for the ASEAN to have a cohesive stand before they negotiate with China. But as we all know, even among the ASEAN claimant states, they have different approaches or strategies in dealing with the South China Sea issue. And they also have varying intensity of economic interdependence with China. Their relations with China also vary. Some of them
Right.
attach much higher importance to relations with China than other issues. And if we bring this matter to the rest of ASEAN, then you have, for instance, countries like Cambodia and increasingly Laos, which of course are very friendly. They have very warm, positive relations with China. And of course, they may diminish a very strident, a very strong position on the South China Sea from the ASEAN side. And so there are concerns. That's why there had been proposals for this ASEAN minus X template, wherein ASEAN countries that are passionate or have a direct stake on the issue, like the South China Sea, can go ahead, and the rest of the ASEAN members who are not direct claimants will not try to throw a monkey wrench or try to prevent reaching a consensus on this sensitive and delicate matter. But again, this is a proposal, and it remains to be seen whether this kind of framework or this kind of arrangement will work for the regional organization.
Right. There are many Inept of ASEAN, organization. ASEAN was claiming, many people point out it is ineffective, and it's merely just for group meeting for a coffee or tea cup, something just like it's seen ASEAN is happening. We need more effective, and we need more tools and to make ASEAN, as you mentioned, it's different opinion and different approach by members country. It's very unfortunate. That's why I see before, between ASEAN and China make any meeting, first ASEAN members should meet first, you have to discuss, differences between member states, including Vietnam and Malaysia, Brunei. Even though when they are favor situation, they don't want to talk. When they has unfavor situation, they want to talk. It's not like that. Whenever situation, they should start talking within ASEAN first, and then we need a common sense among ASEAN. I mean, ASEAN X or ASEAN not X, it doesn't matter. At least in the name of ASEAN, there should be agenda. I've been telling many times, many of ASEAN are very, strategically or multilaterally, many things, we are not sufficient and efficiency. So
Agree.
it is
Agree.
good to be discussed without China first within ASEAN, what level the ASEAN member can be agreed and what can be common acceptable. Example, in South China issue, what Vietnam, Philippines can agree, what Malaysia can agree. That should be so fast. Without that, if you talk with China, it will be more, uncoordinated and more loosely arrangement will happen. So I don't know. There are many ASEAN leadership, but nobody who are focusing about this kind of issue, geopolitical issue. I heard many scholar and experts, but nobody are talking this in agenda in ASEAN meeting. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there are, expertise in the region on this issue. This is one of the uh, grave security issues. This is a long-running
But
issue for
for me,
for
I
ASEAN.
cannot able to attend ASEAN meeting, and they did not invite me for ASEAN meeting, so I cannot input any idea or things. But if somebody can able to attend ASEAN meeting, nobody input those kind of idea. Maybe have you ever attend ASEAN meeting or invited you in ASEAN meeting?
I have attended track 2, track 1.5 ASEAN meetings on other issues, on broader regional security issues, including in the South China Sea. I think one challenge for ASEAN is also the fact that, we have, unlike, say, China or Vietnam, which are one-party systems, they have a very strong political stability and political continuity. Whereas in the case of, say, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. I know these countries have regular elections. Next year there will be elections in Indonesia, and that may, in a way, also affect the foreign policy and security calculus of the country. The Philippines, we will have elections in 2028, and so these kinds of leadership change also affect, how we relate with the major powers, how we treat security issues like the South China Sea. The previous Philippine administration under Rodrigo Duterte is very different from the current Ferdinand Marcos Jr. administration. And so trying to build an enduring national political consensus for every claimant state, for every littoral state of the South China Sea is very important to have a common baseline position that will not change regardless of who sits in power. And that is very important because we are dealing, for instance, with one country like, China since 1949 under the Communist Party of China. So they have a very strong and long-term, vision for, on issues like the South China Sea.
Of course, that's why it's my point. When the country has in favor, they don't want to talk. When they are in unfavor situation, they want to talk. It should not be like that. Whatever situation, either Vietnam or Philippines, or there should be basic principle thing they have to be discussed, and they should have consensus, and common agreement within ASEAN member first, you know. Otherwise, when you approach with China, it will be uncoordinated. It's happening right now. Even though Vietnam want to be more one-party communist, closer relationship, but Vietnam alone cannot solve. Vietnam brings many crises and a lot of conflict with China already. That's why Vietnam become ASEAN member. So that's within ASEAN, they have to be discussed first, whether political changes or leadership changes. That should not be a matter for this principle and, basic consensus. So it seems ASEAN member not yet discussion or meeting formally on South China Sea. Is right?
There had been, yeah, I think there had been many meetings already on the South China Sea. But of course, on the conclusion of the COC in the next 3 years, this is, of course, a challenge and also an opportunity, for all, ASEAN members and also China. The challenge is to come up with a document that, of course, will be beneficial in trying to manage the issue, or if not resolve the issue of the South China Sea, and also a document that would not adversely affect the interests of third states. And I think this is also a consideration that has to be kept in mind.
How about, is there any document or any consensus principle agreement within ASEAN member?
Well, I think the recent outreach of President Marcos to his counterparts in Vietnam and Malaysia to try to solicit or canvass some kind of form, a baseline consensus first, then possibly talk with Brunei and Indonesia, and then try to get the rest of ASEAN around this idea. Next year, the rotating chair of ASEAN would be Laos, a non-claimant state, a non-coastal state, a landlocked state, in fact. And so, whereas the Mekong issue might become more prominent, maybe the South China Sea will be less of an issue for the chair. And so, this is a challenge for countries that border the South China Sea. And so, it's important for the ASEAN four claimants, including also Indonesia, to be able to have a common, strong, unified stand, and then work with the rest of ASEAN, including the chair Laos next year, to make sure that the momentum for the conclusion of the COC will be sustained.
Right. See, that's why, as you said, there was no document yet within ASEAN member, no formal document yet, right? So it means before COC with China, within ASEAN should have first document, formal
Well, there
document,
was
or
a
consensus document, what level they can agree, especially when claimant chairmanship Philippines or Vietnam, Malaysia, that time is the best time to do, but nobody yet done.
yeah, I mean, in 2002, there was a declaration of conduct of parties of the South China Sea. That document bounded ASEAN and China to avoid taking
But that
steps
is
that
not
would
the
escalate.
only ASEAN, right? Not only
Yeah,
ASEAN.
yeah, it's not an ASEAN only
It
document.
means within ASEAN, you have not yet done first.
Agree. Yeah, there is still no document with an ASEAN on the issue of the South China Sea. I mean, an ASEAN only document on the South China Sea.
Right. So, I mean, that is the step we have to do something within ASEAN. And with China or with Taiwan, there can be different document. Otherwise, I mean, the procedure is not good. If without any document you have done in ASEAN, it can be unnecessary problem can occur and happen in the future again and again, you know. And also we need solidarity within ASEAN, and the strength of ASEAN should be here. It's ASEAN is failing many things, you know, in terms of strategy and in terms of ASEAN integrating solidarity. I think it's failing. So, how did you see? What is the reason ASEAN are failing, or ASEAN are not really ASEAN?
Well, I guess the structure of ASEAN, you have 10 countries that are part of the organization. In the coming years, we might be welcoming Timor-Leste. We will become 11. And so reaching a consensus on, especially on security issues. I think there is better unanimity. It is easier for us to get together on economic issues, whether in terms of trade or whether in terms of supply chains, maybe because of the developmental needs of ASEAN countries, there would be a lot of interest, to discuss these issues. But when it comes to divisive matters of security, we tend to be more polarized, whether in dealing with the Myanmar issue or the South China Sea or the Mekong River issue. So it's sometimes, it's hard for ASEAN to have a common strong position on such difficult matters. I hope, that eventually uh, we can have a common position on these issues. Otherwise, uh, our reputation will be at stake. The reputation of ASEAN will be on the line. And of course, it will diminish our relevance. And we already see such arrangements, for instance, like, unilaterals, like AUKUS and the Quad. They seem to be born out of the frustration over ASEAN's inability to come together, have a common and cohesive, strong position on issues like the South China Sea. So I think these are telltale signs that ASEAN should really, put its house in order.
Right. I've been talking with one of Malaysia expertise a years ago. We've been talking about ineffective and lack of ASEAN as within ASEAN system. We need to be improved much stronger, like European Union. There should be more institutionalized, and we need a lot of regulation, code of conduct, constitution. Now it is so loosely and disorganized and ineffective ASEAN. But there are many scholars within ASEAN from many countries, but nobody raised that issue, or it's difficult to raise that issue to be more stronger and effective, like European Union. Even we can make, regulation about ASEAN military and ASEAN political issue, for economic issue, even political issue. If any dictator, if any ASEAN member government abuse or uh, a kind of violated their own ASEAN member citizen, their own citizen abuse and make any crime, there should be also code of conduct to punish, to fire, or to any kind of action. Then we have to support alternative. Such kind of regulation we should develop, including South China Sea or security issue, any boundary issue. We should make some of regulation and what level we can support and what we have to be, stick. I think we
Well, yes.
have to develop a lot of regulation and code of conduct within ASEAN, to be more institutionalized. How did you see? It's not possible or nobody raising that issue?
Well, yes, there's one debate about, how to chart the future of ASEAN. You know, ASEAN is one of the longest running regional organizations in the world, and it remains, it remains one of the lasting organizations that date back the Cold War period. But again, times have changed a lot. The challenges have increased, and so ASEAN has to respond, has to evolve. And one direction would be to go the EU way. There's still debate on that.
Right,
But within ASEAN, of course, there are of course a healthy discussion of where to take the organization going forward, and of course how to respond when some members of the organization fall out of line, or
right,
where there is like a coup against a legitimately elected or constituted government, how to respond to that. So say for instance on the issue of Myanmar, uh, this is of course a burning issue, and put ASEAN's response on the spot. There was pressure on ASEAN to take this issue more stronger, because within our neighborhood, and
right,
it's one member of our community acted differently, and so you know it took us time to come up with the 5 point consensus, and even with the 5 point consensus, it still remains to be seen whether the current government in Myanmar is observing this 5 point consensus, and whether there are really efforts to try to reach a negotiated political solution in the situation. And it seems that the influence of ASEAN in Myanmar's internal affairs is not as strong as initially perceived. And if ASEAN will not be able to work, with Myanmar on this issue, and bring its resources, and bring to bear its influence on Myanmar, then the rest of the international community may see ASEAN as a weak player, even in its own community,
right.
in its own neighborhood.
you know, uh, we have a lot of lack of mechanism, Suddenly, the problem rise in Myanmar. There is no mechanism in ASEAN how to solve political problem within member state, within ASEAN. And just 5 point consensus, they just made it, but it's also failing, it's not working. And for example, South China Sea uh, crisis, we don't have mechanism how to deal immediately. Mostly they are doing bilaterally or, consensus. Even we don't have formally decision or discussion within ASEAN, and no document was produced within ASEAN. So there are many, we don't have mechanism or, document institutional like ASEAN. So we have a lot of lack of ASEAN, we can see, and also a lot of scholar and expert. He has to do many things. I don't know why it's not working, and and who are chairmanship and authorities should be more active and invite not just only government level. We now have to go track to, right? As you said, track to public and non-state actors should be involved, and a lot of experts should be involved to build ASEAN. Otherwise, ASEAN is collapsing, right? So it is time to rebuild ASEAN and to be more perfect and stronger ASEAN. Is there ASEAN Taiwan any discussion on the South China issue or Taiwan Strait issue? How do you feel ASEAN members should cooperate and how much they will cooperate with Taiwan?
Well, I would say, that there had been some internal discussions among ASEAN states, possibly privately, uh, because of the burgeoning cross-strait tensions and the fact that there are many Southeast Asian workers here, migrant workers here in Taiwan, almost over 700,000, mostly from Indonesia and Vietnam, but also from the Philippines and also Thailand. I think there are even some workers from Myanmar here in Taiwan. And so they have their safety and welfare will be affected in the event of a cross-strait conflict. And so countries like Indonesia and the Philippines, for instance, have discussed contingency plans, to repatriate their nationals in the event of a conflict in Taiwan. And at the same time, I think some ASEAN countries have experience in trying to serve as the broker or the mediator to facilitate dialogue for both sides of the strait. Remember in Singapore in 2015, facilitated the meeting between between Ma and Xi, both leaders of the Taiwan Strait. And so I think ASEAN can also play a role in trying to defuse this crisis. But the issue of the One China policy is also a constraint for some ASEAN countries to be more forthcoming in stepping up its role in this crisis. But this should not be an impediment for ASEAN to be an actor in trying to prevent the escalation of the situation in the Taiwan Strait.
Thank you, Lucio. Hope to see you again next time. We talk more about ASEAN Taiwan issue. Have a good day.
Thank you.